There is only peace in the void between the stars. All the trials and struggles of life in the heat of a planetary system fade away to nothingness in that vast, silent emptiness. All is stillness, all is calm, except, of course, when those who voyage between the stars bring their struggles with them. "Excuse me, sir, I'm picking up a transmission," said Lieutenant Wu. The run between Earth and Brahma colony was long and uneventful. Even for a cruiser as fast as the Aventine, it took weeks, and those weeks were spent with nothing to do but hold drills and polish the battle honors. Brahma was at the edge of human settlement, next to nothing around it, except an asteroid belt 2 systems over that occasionally attracted miners. There shouldn't be anyone broadcasting out here. Captain McKinnon leaned forward in his chair. "Go ahead, Lieutenant Wu. What are they saying?" "I'm sorry, sir, I can't quite make it out. It's being distorted by something." "Could be that pulsar 30 light-years away," volunteered Navigation Officer Porter. "The gravity waves it puts out could disrupt an FTL signal, or someone could be deliberately interfering with it," the captain mused. "Can you give us a location?" "Wu transmission source bearing 76.67%. Distance estimated at roughly 6 light days. But that's just an estimate." The captain paused for a moment, considering his options. Without prompting, the first officer, Commander Drake, offered her opinion. "Brahma has waited this long." "It can wait a few more hours," McKinnon nodded. "That it can." "All right, Helm, adjust heading to those coordinates and increase speed to FTL Mark 7I, sir," course-adjusted ensign has announced. "Estimated intercept time 93 minutes. "Very good," the captain nodded. "Well, it's probably just a mining ship that's got lost, but if nothing else, this might shake some of the dust off." "Lieutenant Wu, let me know the moment you clear up that transmission." "Actually, sir, I'm getting something now. It's clearing up a bit. I think the source is heading towards us." "Hold on." The lieutenant tapped his finger on the console impatiently as he adjusted the parameters to eke that last bit of detail from the transmission. "I think. Yes, I'm sure it's a distress call. Universal Standard Communication Codes. Message reads, requesting assistance. We are under attack. We are a lightly armed merchant convoy from There's a bit of interference there, sir." Then it comes back an urgent request for assistance. "We do not have long, that's it, sir. Thank you, Lieutenant. Helm, increase speed to Mark 9 IA, sir. Mark 9 engaged." The captain looked at Commander Drake. She grinned. "Well, you wanted to shake the dust off. It's been a while since this ship's seen combat. It's about time all these weapons were used for something." "Do you think she's still got it in her?" the captain asked in a tone that suggested he perhaps wasn't just asking about the ship. "I think she was built for it, sir." "All right." Then he toggled his intercom. "This is the captain speaking. Set alert condition 2 throughout the ship. We are currently responding to a distress call. Source unknown, enemy unknown. All hands to battle stations. I repeat, all hands to battle stations." The Aventine came out of FTL just under 5 million kilometers from the source of the distress call, and sublight engines immediately flared into life. At the same time, sensor ports opened, only passive sensors. If whoever was out there hadn't spotted their engine burn, then there was no need to announce their presence. "Details," Captain McKinnon asked the sensor technicians. "Picking up weapons fire." "That's for sure," said Lieutenant Singh, the tactical officer. "The whole area is lit up with particle beam fire. There are several ships out there, but we're not close enough to determine their design. Without active sensors, might be better to do an active sweep," Sir Drake suggested. "Safer than going in blind. But we'd be showing our hand. We still don't even know if this is something we want to get involved in or not." The captain thought for a moment, then turned to Lieutenant Wu again. "Launch a communication relay drone. We'll do a short FTL burst, then see if anyone wants to chat." The drone was launched. Then the Aventine engaged FTL for 2 seconds, just close enough for there not to be much of a lag, but far enough that anyone scanning for them using the drone's transmissions as a reference point would be out of luck. As soon as the drone was online, Lieutenant Wu started broadcasting a general transmission. "This is Captain Leo McKinnon of the Terran Republic ship Aventine. We're here in answer to your distress call. Please respond." He turned to Wu, who was looking at his screen intently. A few seconds later, he nodded. "We're being hailed on screen. This is Factor Bayat of the Adela conglomerate. Please, we beg for your assistance. Our shields are almost down." The bridge of the Aventine fell deathly silent. The alien on the screen in front of them was a Yatin. Imagine a centaur if the bottom half was a long-legged lizard, and you wouldn't be too far off. Urans were all too familiar to humans. The long, bloody on and off war between the Terran Republic and the Yatan Alliance had only ended just under a decade ago, and the memories were still raw. The older members of the crew had all lost friends during the conflict, and many of the younger ones had lost family members. The Atoll conglomerate had been a major participant, both in manufacturing weapons and supplying their own janissaries to the Allied Yatan armies. Captain McKinnon clenched his jaw, and for a moment he just stared at the screen. Then he said a little stiffly, "Factor Bayat, what is your situation? Who's attacking you? Where are your escorts?" The Yatan's 4 eyes had all gone milky white, a sure sign that he was on the verge of panic. "Haxa raiders. Our escorts have already been destroyed. We're down to 3 cargo ships and a passenger transport. We cannot fend them off much longer. Please, we will give you anything. Just save us." Commander Drake leaned in and whispered to McKinnon, "Probably slavers, sir. The Haxa are known for that. They'll take the cargo ships too, but the passenger ship is probably what they're after." The captain nodded. "Transmit your sensor readings to us, Factor Bayat, and we'll consider the best course of action." The Factor gave someone off-screen a signal with the complex Yatan sign language. Lieutenant Wu nodded. "Receiving sensor telemetry from the Yatan ships now, Captain." As Factor Bayat had said, there were 4 Yatan ships, 3 large cargo haulers, who were desperately trying to protect an unarmed passenger ship with their utterly inadequate bow cannons. They were under heavy fire from 3 sleek, crescent-shaped attackers whose model was tentatively labeled Haxa Corsair in the Aventine database. According to the specs listed for the Haxa ships, they were roughly in the same weight class as a cruiser like the Aventine, not quite as heavily shielded as a Terran ship, but they made up for that in firepower. "Thoughts?" Captain McKinnon asked his first officer. "They outnumber us 3-1, Commander Drake said bluntly. "Even if we did feel like helping a bunch of Urans, there isn't much we could do for them. Fleet doctrine states that a lone ship confronted by superior forces outside the patrol zones should withdraw and notify Fleet Command, rather than engage. Best thing we can do is send a message to the 7th Fleet's headquarters at Jericho and leave them to send out a rescue mission. Again, if they feel like helping the Urans. They wouldn't do the same for us, you know." "I know, but that's not the point. Is it the 7th would get here far too late to help anyone, and I don't feel like leaving these people to slavers. Even if they are Urans, comms, open a channel to the Haxa ships." "Let's try diplomacy first." "Comms open," Sir Wu confirmed. "I'm not getting any response to our hails, though they've pinged the relay drone," Wu added, "but they haven't started an active sweep of the system yet. They know we're here, they just have other things on their mind at the moment. If they could seize the Yatan ships before further complications arose, they would Haxa vessels." "This is Captain McKinnon of the TRS Aventine, 3rd Terran Battle Fleet. Cease your attack, or we will be forced to open fire." That got their attention. "Sir, they're hailing us on screen." There was nothing much to look at first. Then a form that could best be described as a spider crab with leathery moth wings drifted into view through the dark, soupy liquid. "This is Dominator AAA of the successful Harvest Ship 9 Bounties. This operation is no concern of yours," Human, its slightly jerky translator announced angrily as bursts of bubbles rose from its gill slits. Its claws snapped well, not claws so much as fangs. Given that the 2 limbs were actually proboscises and the 4 interlocking blades on each were its mouth parts, the ships you're attacking sent a general distress call. That makes it our concern. Break off your attack and withdraw, and we can all go on our way peacefully. The prize is ours. We found it first. We claim it. The Terran Republic does not recognize slavery, nor does it tolerate piracy. For the last time, break off your attack and withdraw, or we will have no choice but to use force." The Corsair captain paused, wings beating to keep it level with the camera. It snapped its fangs again. "I do not understand. The Urans are your enemies. Why are you helping them?" "The Urans were our enemies. Now they're innocent people in need of help." Captain McKinnon got the sense that the only way he was going to drive the point home was if he spoke to the Haxa captain in his own language. "Not that it matters what the Urans are to us. The only thing you need to understand is that if you do not leave now, we will destroy your ships." "Unlikely," the Corsair said contemptuously. "If you had overwhelming force, you would show it rather than hiding in the shadows. We are far outside your territory. You are most likely just a single ship. Interfere in our business, And it is you who will be destroyed with a beat of its wings. The HFY disappeared from view, and the comm link was unceremoniously terminated. They're repositioning, Sir Singh informed him. Spreading out, and they've started scanning the system. No pings on us so far, their sensor beams are too diffuse. Confident but not overconfident, Captain McKinnon nodded. They're getting ready to fight, the captain said. The question is, are we going to? Commander Drake asked. As I said, fleet doctrine suggests that we withdraw. There are likely to be, 1,200 people on that passenger ship. Anyone who'd fought in the war had a very detailed memory of yacht and ship designs, plus a few dozen more on each of the cargo ships. If we leave, they'll either be killed or sold into slavery. Captain McKinnon was very still for a moment. Then he nodded. We're going to fight. Do you want me to note your objection for the logs? Commander Drake, she grinned at him. My objection? I was just telling you what they're going to say when you make your report to fleet headquarters. I joined the Terran Republic Navy, not a yacht club. I say run out the guns and let's show them what happens to slavers who get within 100 light years of Earth. She leaned in and added, you have a plan though, right? We're not just going to go toe-to-toe with an enemy that has 3-to-1 odds on us, are we? I have a plan, McKinnon confirmed. He didn't add, but I'm not sure how good a plan it is. HFY Corsairs are well armed, but each ship is independent, and they're a commercial operation rather than a professional navy. They aren't trained to work together, and they don't have good discipline. That's a weakness we can exploit. Well, whatever you have in mind, I'm with you. We better make it quick, though. Those yacht and ships aren't going to last much longer. McKinnon nodded and toggled his intercom. This is the captain. Set alert condition 1 throughout the ship. We are going into battle. I repeat, we are going into battle. All tactical stations report readiness. All stations report ready, Captain Lieutenant Singh announced a moment later. Then charge the forward particle cannons and raise the shields. We're going in I, Sir Singh answered with relish. Tactical. Launch a spread of torpedoes on stealth mode, targeting these 2 ships, the captain ordered, marking them on the screen attached to his chair. Helm, as soon as that's done, make an FTL jump of 1 second on bearing 85.5. You're not actually going to close with them, Drake queried, since that heading would keep them heading perpendicular to the HFY ships. Oh, you want to see if you can lure them away from the Yatan. We're going to close with them. All right. I just want to give them something else to think about. When we do, the Aventine launched a spread of 10 torpedoes, using magnetic accelerators to give them their initial burst of speed. On stealth mode, they wouldn't be fast, but they'd be almost impossible to spot until they were right on top of the enemy. As per McKinnon's order, as soon as the torpedoes were away, the ship executed a short burst of light speed that took them a few million kilometers while only getting slightly nearer their target. Now we wait for the FTL engine cooldown, McKinnon said. FTL travel created ripples in space-time that needed time to disperse before the drive could be used again. For such a short hop, only a few minutes would be needed. Sir Lieutenant Wu said, the Urans have sent another message. Shields failing. We beg for your aid. Broadcast back on an open comm channel. The rest of our fleet is currently arriving. We will engage the HFY ships together as soon as we are in battle formation. Take no unnecessary risks. Help is coming. Do you really think the HFY will fall for that? Commander Drake asked. Not yet. But when those torpedoes arrive, they're going to be asking themselves where they came from, McKinnon said, drawing a smile from his first officer as realization dawned. You've still got it, you old fox, Drake whispered. Well, I guess we'll find out. Tactical. Launch another spread of torpedoes. Helm. Prepare for another FTL burst once again. The Aventine let loose a salvo of stealth torpedoes and then executed another faster-than-light jump away from their last position. This time, the captain gave a heading that put them much closer to the HFY ships and in a position so the HFY would have to turn their backs on the torpedoes to face them. Now comes the hard part. Helm, take us in on sublight engines. Aim straight for the lead HFY ship. I think it's time we taught Dominator, aka the value of politeness. Put us right in his face. Tactical, divert power to forward shields and target their reactor with particle cannons and masers. Everything we have. There's no room for half measures now. The crew of the Aventine executed his orders with practiced efficiency. Engines burning brightly in the darkness, the Terran cruiser sped towards the Corsair ships. FTL was useful for speed. But you couldn't calculate light speed travel with enough precision to fight a battle. Mostly you'd overshoot your enemy, except for the times you crashed right into him, or ripped yourself apart on the gravity waves created by his FTL drive. We've been pinged, sir," Lieutenant Singh announced. Finally, the Corsair ships had picked the Aventine up on active sensors. "Good. Hopefully that'll take some of the pressure off the Urans," the captain said. And sure enough, the Haxa broke off their attack and started reforming to meet the human ship storming towards them. However, the Aventine had positioned itself so that one of the Corsairs couldn't fire without risking hitting Dominator Aka's ship, and the other was at extreme long range. Their sublight engines burned as they tried to reposition themselves. But the Aventine had already picked up a lot of speed. As the distance narrowed, the lead Haxa ship started firing particle cannons, and the Aventine responded in kind. Normally a battle would be fought at the range of several hundred kilometers, but the human ship just kept coming, rapidly closing the gap between her and the Corsair. As the combat narrowed to point-blank ranges, shield flares lit up the void. An engagement between ships of this class would normally last several hours at this rate. It would be over within minutes. "Sir, port particle cannons are offline," Lieutenant Singh called out. "Tell engineering to reroute to that section through the life support relays and divert power from the rear cannon's eyes, sir." "We have hull breaches on C and D decks," Commander Drake said grimly. "Casualty reports coming in, sir. We're within 100,000 kilometers of the enemy," Ensign has shouted. "Keep going, keep firing," McKinnon shouted as the Aventine shook under the Corsair's bombardment. "Tactical, prepare a salvo of high-yield torpedoes. Don't bother to stealth them this time. Fire when we're within 50,000 kilometers." Sir Singh nodded, sweating with the effort of following the status reports as every weapon the Aventine had fired on the Haxa ship. "Shield generator Gamma is beginning to overheat. Recommend taking it offline and extending the others to compensate." Agreed. Rotate them every 20 seconds. The firepower from the Corsair was only intensifying. The Aventine suffered another hull breach and was lucky not to lose an engine pod as a particle beam from the furthest Haxa ship clipped its now poorly shielded rear. It was a deadly race. Could the other two Corsairs arrive to help their flagship before the Aventine finally cracked its shields? Assuming, of course, that it could even do that before its own shields collapsed. "Torpedoes away," Singh announced. Port particle cannons are back online. "Keep firing with everything we have," McKinnon told him. There was no room for subtlety now. The Aventine had better shields. The only thing they could do now was take it on the chin and hope the Corsair didn't have the weaponry to make them regret it. However, the Corsair had already been firing non-stop for hours, fighting to pin down the yacht and convoy and whittle down their shields. You could only use a particle beam weapon for so long before parts needed to be switched out, and the reactor's power supply wasn't infinite. The Corsair's rate of fire was perhaps just slightly less than it would have been had they been entering the battle fresh. The space between the two ships was now a dazzling maelstrom of light and energy. But suddenly a fireball blossomed near the Corsair, then another and another. The torpedoes were being shot down by the enemy ship's point defenses, but not fast enough. A fireball splashed across the Corsair's shields, then another engulfed one tip of the crescent. "Enemy starboard shields are down. Concentrate fire on that section," the captain ordered. The Aventine's firepower honed in on the damaged section, slicing through the now unprotected hull. Internal explosions rippled through the starboard wing, and the Corsair's prow shields glowed with blue light, then collapsed in a brief blinding flash. "That's it," McKinnon said coldly, fist clenching. "Target their reactor." It took 3 particle beam hits to cut through the extra armor around the Corsair's reactor. Suddenly, for a moment, an extra sun lit up the darkness. When the afterimage faded a moment later, there was nothing left of the Haxa Corsair flagship but a rapidly spreading debris field. "Helm, emergency braking," the captain called. "Yes, sir," answered Ensign Has, who was already reaching for the retro thruster controls. "Sir, the 2 remaining Corsairs are still closing on us," Singh informed them. "The reactor blast has disrupted their sensors, but I estimate that it will only be a few minutes before they reacquire us." "If I've timed this right, a few minutes should be all we need," McKinnon reassured him. "Damage control teams, focus on repairing the shields. Gunnery teams, make sure their weapons have fresh power couplings and capacitors. All systems that aren't combat critical are non-priority. Even life support particle beams lance through the void towards them, missing sometimes only by a few meters. The Haxa were finding the range again quickly. You know we can't keep fighting in the shape we're in," Commander Drake whispered. If this doesn't work, we need to be ready to get out of here as fast as we can. Just wait for it, McKinnon answered her. Any moment now, sensors picking up explosions to the rear of the enemy ships. Lieutenant Singh announced. It's our torpedoes they watched on the tactical map as, like their unfortunate sister ship, the HFY tried to shoot down the torpedoes, only to find there were too many, too close. The Aventine sensors registered several shield impacts on the enemy ships. However, as their shields were more or less intact, the torpedoes caused minimal damage. But now the HFY were being attacked from behind by an enemy they couldn't see. McKinnon leaned forward in his chair, waiting. Suddenly, the HFY ships weren't there anymore. They had each done what any amateur would do when startled by an attack from an unexpected source and executed a short FTL jump, enough to save their ship if they'd been under attack from an enemy fleet ambushing them. But in this case, the only effect was to put them several million kilometers apart from each other, well beyond the range at which they could support their fellow corsair, a basic tactical error. But Dominator aka was now in no position to order his subordinate captains to hold the line. Helm, prepare to go to FTL, Captain McKinnon ordered. We'll follow that one. It looks like it's already suffered battle damage. The Yatan escorts must have taken a piece out of it before they were destroyed, Captain. We've got damage reports coming in from all over the ship, Drake informed him. Before he could even say anything, she answered, I know. If we take the pressure off now, they might regroup. But we definitely won't survive another close quarters fight like that, agreed. We'll do this one the conventional way and hope it's enough. Helm, engage FTL. Now the Aventine jumped through space towards the injured ship and again closed on it with sublight engines. This time, McKinnon ordered them to keep the engagement range at several 100,000 kilometers, targeting the Corsair's engines. They still scored several critical hits quickly. If the other HFY ship had taken the time to wait for its FTL engines to come back online and tried to rejoin the Corsair under attack, the Aventine wouldn't have stood much of a chance. However, with their leader dead and the Aventine looking like it was trying to disable the other survivor so whatever other ships were lurking out there could catch up. The third HFY Corsair decided that it wasn't about to risk itself just to save a ship that could just as easily become a competitor tomorrow. As soon as its FTL engines were usable again, it started running from the combat zone as fast as it could. That didn't mean the fight was over. The remaining Corsair tried to escape as well, but forming a stable FTL field while you're under fire is easier said than done, and all it managed was a series of short hops. The Aventine took several more hits, one of them knocking out its port particle cannons for good, before it managed to beat down the enemy's rear shields and carve through 3 out of their 4 engine pods. Almost dead in the void, the Corsair didn't have much of a chance. Even then, it didn't give up, but the final spectacular explosion of its reactor was a foregone conclusion. After the battle was over, the Aventine returned to the convoy and hailed them. Are you in any further need of assistance? Captain McKinnon asked. We have suffered some damage, but our drives are still functional, Factor Bayat told him. We will make it to our nearest outpost. I suggest you allow us to escort you there in case that last Corsair returns to reclaim their prize, McKinnon suggested. We will have to go via our colony on Brahma, but it shouldn't be too far out of your way, understood and accepted. We will now discuss terms of compensation. Factor Bayat had the air of someone who thinks it's better to pull the band-aid off in one quick yank. We are not a commercial vessel. We don't take reward money, McKinnon told him. If your government or your conglomerate's board wishes to compensate the Terran Republic, then that will be an issue for diplomats to discuss. But it's not why we answered your distress call. Then why did you aid us? Factor Bayat asked him. You owed us nothing. In fact, we have recently cost your polity a great deal. If we hadn't intervened, over 1,000 people would have been sold into slavery, McKinnon told him. We couldn't let that happen. It would have been, he struggled to find words the alien would understand and had to settle for. It would have been immoral. Factor Bayat looked at him with as much puzzlement as a 4-eyed lizard centaur can convey. I still don't understand, he said. McKinnon looked at Drake, who gave him a wry smile. He shrugged. I guess it's just a human thing. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.